like sort of introductory understanding of sort of what I mean when I say open access research articles, open educational resources. So decent. Since it is, after all, about 9:30 in the morning, I don't want to sort of do death by PowerPoint at 9 a.m. So I have slides that I can speak to if it is helpful. But what I would sort of suggest, rather than just going through these, since it is so early, I'd love to have more of a conversation and sort of give you some updates on what's been happening on the legislative front at the top and sort of how that relates to the broader issues. And then, sort of as you have questions about, maybe more fundamental questions about sort of what do we mean by open when we're talking about open access, we can delve into those issues, if that sounds okay to everybody. And Christopherson, please let me know when there's coffee. Oh yeah, not for me. I mean, just for. Very, very concerned about this. So I'll start with just a brief update on the open education side of things. As we were talking about before I came up, I think there is an emerging correlation between NAGPS's LADs and making significant advancements on the open education side of our advocacy program, though the correlation to LAD happens right after the advances are made. But one of the things we talked about this spring when you were here was, I think right before LAD, we sort of got word that the language that we wanted to include in the FY18 appropriations bill around open textbooks and allocating $5 million for an open textbook pilot program passed. Was included in the bill and ultimately passed in March. So as a review for those of you that weren't here during the spring LAD, essentially this is I guess this language and appropriations created this pilot program where through the Department of Education's FIPSI program will allocate $5 million through a competitive grant process that publishers, universities, consortia can submit proposals to create open textbooks that will then be openly under a permissive open license. So it's wonderful to have $5 million to produce open textbooks, but I think even more importantly than the direct allocation is the signal that sends that the U.S. federal government sees open and open textbooks as an important solution to the cost the cost of higher education, the cost of textbooks, and addressing that. So the more recent good news is that earlier this week we thanks to the advocacy efforts of both my colleague Nicole Allen, who's been really leading this effort from our side, as well as lots of other partner organizations and allies, including the U.S. PERCs, including NAGPS, and others. There was similar language that was included in the most recent appropriations bill that moved earlier this week, and that would essentially re-up that $5 million grant program. As it was written into the appropriations bill earlier this spring, it was just a one-off appropriation. It didn't create sort of an enduring program. So this sort of allocates another $5 million. And it also strengthens some of the language around open. It strengthens some of the sort of the policy of the grant program. I think probably one of the most important areas is that the time horizon for submitting a proposal was quite short after the sort of expectations of what these proposals would include was released. And so this new language will lengthen that timeline, make it easier for especially like higher education institutions or consortia of universities to submit proposals, since that short time horizon made it really difficult for universities to coordinate. Even though we did see a good number of universities submit proposals to the Department of Ed under that March program, but we feel like this will help universities have sort of be in a better position to compete for this money. So that's a really, really exciting development. But I think the sort of thing to focus on for LAD and your time here in DC over the next couple of days and the meetings that you're at is that these are still one-off appropriations. It's awesome to have $5 million in the last year, $5 million, and this current appropriations bill. But what we really want is sort of an enduring program that's making those allocations on an annual basis. So for LAD this year, I think some of the things you might want to point to, of course, mentioning that this language is included in appropriations, but also talking about how, from your perspective, you'd like to see this be a permanent program that's established. And we have a bill called the Affordable College Textbook Act that would essentially codify this type of a program into law so that it would be, an annual allocation. With where we are in the year heading into the midterm elections in just over a month, I think as probably other speakers before me yesterday have said, the sort of season for actually moving legislation is, quickly coming to a close, if not really already there functionally. So I think, in this issue as well as a lot of the others, I think a lot of what you'll sort of be doing is more framing these issues, raising awareness, and trying to build support in the next Congress. And we expect to reintroduce the Affordable College Textbook Act or some sort of updated version of it in the next Congress after the midterms to build on this appropriations work. So again, I just want to reiterate that NAGPS has been really helpful, especially in getting that first appropriation through. Really, really appreciate your support in doing that and contacting your representatives and showing that they're strong.